I am Piers Ridyard, CEO of the decentralized finance protocol Radix, a public ledger entirely focused on bringing DeFi into the mainstream. This is our podcast, the DeFi Download, a show about decentralized finance and all things crypto, where we dive into the details of the projects, assets, and services that are powering the DeFi revolution. Today, I'm joined by Dohyun, CEO and co-founder of Bifrost and BiFi. Bifrost is the world's first blockchain middleware that enables multi-chain technology. Never settle for just one protocol, always get the best of every protocol. And BiFi is a true multi-chain lending protocol like Compound or Aave, but across multiple chains with over $111 million in assets under management. Dohyun, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Piers. It's nice to meet you.
So let's just sort of like start with how did you get interested in DeFi? Like what was the trigger to pull you into DeFi, and this sort of like journey from a technical like implementation of something to actually building a DeFi product, I think is really interesting. But let's start with just how did you get into DeFi?
Well, before DeFi, actually, I was really interested in the blockchain technology itself. Before coming to blockchain industry, well, as you can see from my profile, I was a professor in university, and I still am a professor. But before being a professor, I had worked in financial industry for like 10 years as a derivative quant and trader. So I'm very used to, the money industry and so on. So, I became aware of the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in 2015. There are a bunch of exchanges and the prices are different. So, wow, it was, all about arbitrage because, since I was in the, security firm, I was like, there are like money all over the world. So I was trying to, get some arbitrage opportunities. That's the start of, being into this crypto market. But when I look at the blockchain technology itself, I realized that this is something that may change the world in the future. So I started, start to do some business on blockchain. And that's when I started this firm, Pilot, which is the blockchain technology firm for Bifrost. And
so what was your blockchain moment? Like, what was it that made you realize that it was actually something revolutionary? What made you go, oh, wow, this is going to change the world?
Because, that's the only technology that make you, trust someone on internet. On internet, everyone, you cannot trust anyone on internet because, it's always anonymous. But with blockchain technology, I thought that might be something that you can trust someone on internet without, centralized, government or something. Right. So that's the moment that blockchain might change the world, change something in the future. So since I'm from the financial background, I need someone who can do the technical stuff. And that's where I met my CTO. And he was a white hacker, actually. And he was well on the, really, he knows lots about blockchain technology. And he actually taught me about the blockchain technology itself. So we started our company from 2016. And well, actually, I thought that, application, like decentralized application is something that people will use in future. So we started to make decentralized application, based on Ethereum. And we realized that, that it's really hard to develop on Ethereum because the cost is really high and very slow. That's a like trilemma. And it's really hard to expand. So, we thought that we should change something for this industry. DApp is something that people will use, and there is no platform so that DApp can use more than one blockchain. That's the start of Bifrost, and that's like from 2017. We started develop Bifrost, and since 2018, 18, well, actually on 2019, on DevCon, we demonstrated a dApp built on 5 blockchains running on faster TPS and lower fees. So that's the version 1.0 of Bifrost, and on late 2019.
So that's quite early. That's quite early from the point of view of cross chain, like 2019. I suppose 2019, like cross chain was where you started to see like Cosmos and Polkadot and stuff like that start to emerge as concepts. But like, what was it? What was the reason that you thought that there's a philosophical divide, right, in the blockchain space between some people going, oh, one ledger is going to be the place that everything is done. Mm-hmm. And some people are like, no, it's going to be a multi-chain future. And people are going to go to different ledgers for different reasons. So, I mean, those are the two broad camps. Which camp would you sort of fit into? And like, what drove the reason that you thought Bifrost was going to be such an important piece of technology to build?
Well, yeah, that's right. The reason that we developed Bifrost is, as I told you, we were trying to build a dApp, based on Ethereum. And as you know, it's slow and it has a very slow TPS and the fee is very high. So we thought that if we can connect some blockchain all at once with the lower fees and higher TPS, then that could be the solution for the dApps. And I thought that 2020 will be the year of lots of dApps, and there's going to be a bunch of, blockchain applications which need that kind of multi-chain technology. That's why we try to develop Bifrost. But as you know, 2020 was not the year of dApps. And 2020 was the
2020 the year of DeFi, which is arguably the year of dApps.
That's right. 2020 was the year of DeFi, and that's why we start, modify Bifrost to the DeFi solution. And BiFi is the multi-chain DeFi that we are trying to develop from the late 2019, and finally, we could launch, BiFi on January 2021, which is like 8 months ago. And that was, very good challenge.
That's awesome. So, like, what is the? Let's talk about BiFi. So, what is BiFi doing? When you say it's multi-chain, like, what does that actually mean? How many chains is it integrated, and like, where does the main logic sit? Is there a master chain and some other chains that it just moves like assets to, or is it actually like the full application exists on multiple chains?
Okay. Before that, I want to talk about the limitation of DeFi right now. Okay. DeFi today is just happening within the Ethereum network, right? Compound, Aave, they are on Ethereum. And, the reason is DeFi is an ecosystem where everything is built on smart contract. But the problem is, of having every DeFi in the Ethereum network, this DeFi becomes more and more, as DeFi becomes more and more active, the gas fee will increase. And as gas fee gets more and more expensive, the mass adoption becomes less likely. And this is the biggest limitation of current DeFi market. So, how can we overcome this limitation? As I see it, the answer is for DeFi to extend, beyond the Ethereum network to different blockchain protocol. In other words, if we get multi-chain DeFi, we can finally solve the current dilemma of DeFi. It's not only gas fee, but also other, network. Let's take an example. Currently, the total market cap of Ethereum is about $300 billion, right? It's about in between 300 and 350. And the total TVL of DeFi within Ethereum network is about 70 billion. And if we were to say that we can take the DeFi of Ethereum network and expand it by connecting it to Bitcoin network, how big will the market cap become? Bitcoin market cap is about like 4 times of Ethereum right now. It's about $1.2 trillion. So the size of DeFi will also increase about 4 times.
Sure.
Well, this is just one example from the current situation.
But like with all of those examples, like there are lots of different solutions to that, right? Like there's already wrapped Bitcoin on top of Ethereum. There's WBTC, which has a large amount of Bitcoin on Ethereum. There's renBTC. There's RSK, which is a project to build smart contracts on top of Bitcoin. There is Sovryn, which is trying to build DeFi on top of Bitcoin and already has, assets under management. There's, layer twos like Polygon and Optimism. There's, all of these different competing ledgers like Radix, like Aave, like Solana that are sort of which are building their own DeFi ecosystems.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what is Bifrost and BiFi doing here that allows those to be uniquely sort of pulled together?
Okay, the proportion of RBTC, comparing to all the BTC market is just less than 1%. So the amount of BTC, which is amount of BTC in DeFi market is less than 1%, which means that we want to expand that pie to the native BTC market. So which is like 4 times of Ethereum. And as you mentioned, lots of projects like Polkadot and Aave, well, they are trying to do something, they're layer 2 solution. One of the Polkadot is layer 2 solutions, and not exactly layer 2, but lots of people are, lots of projects are trying to expand the current DeFi market right now. But I think, the solution, the native solution would be connect the real native blockchain itself, not just making a layer 2 and not just making like bridge or something. So like, for example, Thorchain, Thor, they're giving the bridge to the Bitcoin and they're trying to make a Bitcoin DeFi system. But the thing is, they got hacked because of some problems on their bridging system. So,
which is also called Bifrost, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just to be confusing, it's not the same as you guys, but they do have the same name.
That's right. That's right. That's pretty similar, but we're totally different. We are connecting the native Bitcoin, and we actually,
So what's that mean? When you say connecting native Bitcoin, technically speaking, what do you mean you're doing? What are you doing?
Okay. Well, actually, as you know, Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts.
No.
So for using in DeFi, you need a smart contract. And what we are doing is making it's not a layer 2 solutions, but making a layer for Bitcoin and make it usable in DeFi platform. And this is kind of a multi-chain solution, and that's a small black box that we cannot give you the total information, but right now,
is it similar to the approach that Ren is taking? As in, like you have another ledger that is responsible for the custodianship of the Bitcoin that is represented on another ledger. Is that sort of the basic approach, or is your network smart contracts directly submitting transactions to the Bitcoin network?
That's right. The last one is right. We are providing the smart contract, which is connected to the Bitcoin itself. And there's a possibility of hacking. That's why we got lots of auditing. And actually our CTO is from the, IT security area. And that's the part that we are focusing our technology on.
Okay. And so you guys have got $111 million under management, which is awesome. So what's that $111 million doing? Like, what are people doing with their money on BiFi?
Oh, I'm sorry. What
are people doing with their money on BiFi? Like, what tokens can I bring, and what benefit do I get, and what ledger should I use if I want to use BiFi?
Okay, well, basically we are supporting, MetaMask, and you can just lend your whatever your crypto, like such as
I lend my Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever. And if you are a believer of Bitcoin, and if you don't want to sell any of your Bitcoin, but you need still some money to spend, you have to buy some cars and you want to buy some more cryptos, then you can
buy some cars.
Yeah, that's right.
Those Lambos won't buy themselves.
That's right. And, with Bitcoin, and if you land your Bitcoin, then you can borrow some other cryptos from the BiFi, and then probably you can spend whatever you want. That's basically the lending protocol like Compound or Aave. And the basic difference is, we also connected Bitcoin, and we are trying to, expand our cryptocurrency market, such as, like Bitcoin families, which doesn't support smart contracts like Litecoin and something else.
Right. So how do I use Bitcoin with MetaMask on your platform?
Well, you cannot use Bitcoin on MetaMask, but you can just connect to the BiFi. And if you are trying to, you have to connect the BiFi, you need MetaMask right now. But, in a few weeks from now, we're going to launch our Bifrost wallet. We're gonna launch our own wallet, and in there you can see all the Bitcoin families and Ethereum families and whatever. But right now, if you want to deposit Bitcoin, then you can all you need is MetaMask and other centralized wallet, like Binance wallet or whatever. And if you have Bitcoin in Binance, and if you connect BiFi with your MetaMask, and you can. When you want to lend Bitcoin, then you can probably connect to your MetaMask, and you can send your Bitcoin in Binance to your BiFi, which is on the Ethereum smart contract. It's kind of complicated, explaining in words, but if you can just connect it and see it, that's not that complicated.
Got it. Okay. And so the lending protocols are like Aave, like Compound, are two-sided marketplaces, right? So one side is capital providers who want to lend out, so put some of their assets to work that they don't want to sell. So I've got Bitcoin and it's just sitting in my cold storage wallet, and it's not increasing in number. And so, or I've got some ETH, or I've got some USDC. And these platforms like BiFi allow you to come along and lend those out, right? So say, I could get some yield on my Bitcoin. What do I get if I lend out Bitcoin at the moment on BiFi?
Oh, if you lend Bitcoin, then you can get very small interest, but you can borrow some other, cryptocurrencies based on your Bitcoin valuations.
Right. So that's the other side, right? The other side is people who want to get access to other assets without purchasing them, so that they are they're borrowers on the market, and they want to borrow against some collateral that they have. Now that is driven, that's where the yield comes from, right? It comes from those users who want to borrow against their assets, and they pay a premium for doing so. They pay for the right to borrow USDC against their Bitcoin or Ethereum against their Bitcoin. And that yield comes from the demand that people have for borrowing those assets. So where are you seeing most of the borrow demand coming from? Which ledger, and what are people doing with the cryptos that they're borrowing from Bifrost? So from DeFi.
Okay, well, actually, DeFi currently, lots of the users of DeFi are doing the DeFi because of the yield farming and leveraging. So probably, one of them, if you want to make yield farming, then probably, you can borrow and just, you can do the recursive stuff for the yield farming. And if you want to do some leveraging, then probably you can, use the leveraging solution of DeFi, then probably that's one of them. That's one of the two, I think.
So is most of that happening on Ethereum?
Yeah, currently that's the most happening.
Right. Okay. And the most commonly deposited asset for you, is it Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin your most popular? Is that your most liquid pool?
Well, in BiFi, rather than Bitcoin, Ethereum and USDC are the most popular one because, lots of people want to use Ethereum and USDC for leveraging and yield farming and everything.
That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. And like, where do you think this still, like, as a professor of finance, as someone who spent a lot of time in the finance space, mm-hmm. I can imagine that sometimes, DeFi feels very immature at the moment. Where do you see DeFi going over the next few years? Like, what's the exciting things that it's got that in store you see coming down the line?
Okay. Well, I think DeFi is the next innovation of finance, and traditional finance sector is saying that DeFi is the next innovation. I think DeFi, the decentralized finance, will bring innovation to things that central finance could not do, until now. Probably I can mention 3 categories in that innovation. The first one is DeFi for service for all. The DeFi's biggest innovation is that it can provide financial services to everyone. Centralized finance has 100 years of history. It's been like 400 years old. But most of you, even you, are from the developed countries, so have no problem enjoying the service of modern finance. But as you know, like 1.7 billion people in the world, it's about 22% of global population. They don't even have access to any financial services. DeFi will be able to serve people anywhere with internet or smartphone. That is the biggest innovation that centralized finance couldn't achieve, like in several hundred years. But DeFi has, it's just a few years old, but DeFi can do it. So the first innovation is, you can say service for all. And I think the second innovation is, service without borders. Wherever you are, whether you are in US, Korea, or even in Somalia, you can be able to access the same financial service, which is fabulous. And probably the third innovation is very simple. That's a service with plug and play. While CeFi requires like countless documents and processes. If you want to invest on something on CeFi, you have lots of documents and you have to wait a lot. But DeFi just needs a few simple steps for anyone to use it. Probably that's the 3 things that DeFi can do, which, CeFi cannot do until like last several hundred years. And, that's real elements of innovation in traditional finance, sees in DeFi, and, it's going to be the real innovation that CeFi couldn't do until like last few hundred years. That's what I think.
I think they're all really good points. For a long time, like crypto talked about this idea of like banking the unbanked. I'm not sure that's actually. I'm not sure that's actually what DeFi is. I think that DeFi is providing financial services to those people who are underserved by so there's this concept of underbanked, but I hate that term. But I think that like banking, a safe place to keep your money, is like a basic necessity. We all need, and the more impoverished we are, the more important it is to be able to have somewhere safe to keep your money, and often the harder it is to do that. And I think that's a really important thing. And that's great. And that's often like what people tout Bitcoin as being the solution for. But I think for DeFi, it's that next level of being like, well, now not only can you have a safe place to keep your assets, but there's somewhere that they can be put to work. There's somewhere that you can get, like you can be the same, this concept you're talking about, equal financial access, whether or not you're in America or in Somalia, suddenly it's not a question of, oh, you're in a poor region, so you don't get these services. And that's almost like, in many ways, a lot of regulation sometimes feels like it is incredibly patronizing. Like, a great example of this is the American regulations around the sophisticated investor rules, or the accredited investor rules, where it's like, if you're rich, you're more intelligent because then you can understand these financial services. It's like, no, that's not, like, don't treat people like kids. But also in the same way, like, not that, like, blocking out the access of these people from these countries from just being able to put their assets to work, put their capital to work, I think is incredibly detrimental in a way that you don't think about, because they're not getting the benefits of compound interest. They're not getting the benefits of actually being able to grow their capital, which puts them further behind than the rest of the world as well. There's all of those things that you talk about, and I agree with them. What about the social aspect of it? Do you think that crypto and the way that crypto communities work is going to change finance?
Well, crypto currently, I think, crypto is for early adopters. Just the number. Do you know the number of DeFi users? It's about 3 million.
3 million. That's a lot more than okay.
For all the world, just 3 million people. Well, I don't know. It's 3 million. It's the number of people or the number of wallets. Probably, one person can have more than one wallet. So it's less than 3 million. But they are all early adopters. And, centralized finance doesn't really like DeFi because it's a born of DeFi. It's decentralized. So government doesn't like the word decentralized. So they hate decentralized concept because they don't need government. But everybody is realized that DeFi is something, like El Salvador, they want to use Bitcoin as their money, as their government money, because they don't have their own fiat. They are using US dollars. And if there's something going on in US, then there's going to be some problem with them, with their monetary system. So they decided to use Bitcoin instead of US dollars, as well as US dollars. But as time goes by, I think that people will be aware of the innovations of DeFi. I told you 3 things, but there are more than 3 things for the innovation of DeFi. Like, it doesn't have border, it doesn't have government, it doesn't have central bank. Nobody can decide the interest rates of, the standardized interest rate for lending and borrowing. All you need is the supply and demand. That's the market. The rate is something the market should decide. And if people became to be aware of the innovations of DeFi, then more and more people will use it. I have lots of people who are from the financial area, and they realize that, DeFi has something. The current interest rate in the traditional finance is really low, like less than 1% or something. But if you believe
depending on country, but for most people,
that's right. If you believe in DeFi and if you see some technical stuff, then, and when you believe it, then you can have much more interest than that. And, as the number of people who believes, blockchains and DeFi, and of course, the NFT, lots of people talk about NFT, and the NFT market, it's crazy right now nowadays. And the reason I think the NFT market, becomes exploded is because of the concepts of metaverse, the real world and virtual world. And if you go to the metaverse, then you need something who can prove your identity and who can prove your ownership. And blockchain technology is the only one that can prove your identity and ownership in metaverse. So NFT is something probably you can prove your ownership for the items. And And below that, probably DeFi is the system that can run NFT and the whole finance in the metaverse and like, not the real world as well as the real world in the market. So
how do you see like bridging happening, right? Like, so you're talking about bridging between different ledgers, which is fine. But what about bridging assets from the real world into the decentralized world? Because there's always that nexus of trust, right? Like, Bitcoin is solvable, but like dollar representations, maybe you can do a decentralized representation of the dollar, fine. But property or equity, like or deliverable commodities around like, copper and gold and stuff like that. How do you see that working where the decentralized world, where the burgeoning new financial system exists, and the world where we have the ways of managing assets and representations as in real assets that want to be part of this capital world, but still have to deal with things like regulation, still have to deal with like the rules of the game as it's played at the moment for things like property ownership or for things like company ownership. How do you see those two things being bridged together? What do you see the path there is?
Okay, that's why DeFi cannot exist. Some people say that DeFi can replace the traditional finance, but I don't think so. DeFi can coexist with the traditional finance, and decentralized world can coexist with the real world right now. They cannot replace the whole thing, because even though we want to live in the decentralized and some world with no government and just demand and supply formula can exist society or something, but it's not possible. We need government and we need at least some, SOCs, and we are living in the real world. So there should be some bridge in between. And I think, when government has regulations on decentralized stuff, and US is doing that kind of stuff slowly, but we should do some compromise in between the decentralized and the real world. And that's where the regulations are. And that's where we have to do some deal with those parties. So I think, for example, for DeFi, at least we need some, we have, how can I say? We need someone who can guarantee the value of decentralized, equities or something. Like, Bitcoin should have some US dollar valuation, and the other cryptos, they need some valuation, and we need some like parties who can really valuate them. That's what can you say? That's probably some part that government or some banks should do in between.
Interesting. You're based in Korea, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so last question. It's been wonderful speaking with you. But like, I know that the Korean government has had sort of an interesting relationship with crypto, let's say, in Korea. Like, what is the sort of how's that relationship looking now? Like, what's the man on the street in Korea think about crypto, and what's the government saying about crypto?
Well, as far as I know, Korean government doesn't really like crypto so much. What they're trying to do is they want to separate crypto and blockchain technology. They love blockchain technology, the concept. They thought that it's one of the technology that probably can change the future, but they hate cryptos because, it's not even the value. It doesn't even have values. That's, Korean government think. But since I did some jobs with the government and I did some, blockchain projects for governments, and whenever I met people in government, they said that, we love blockchain technology, but we don't want crypto. But, Korean government, their characteristic is even though they don't like crypto, if like some developed country like US or some Europe countries, start the regulation, and if they start doing business with the crypto, then South Korean government will follow that. That's what I think. So I think, that's the key part of U.S. regulation do. So if, even though Korean government doesn't like crypto, they will follow some regulations of U.S. and then probably, crypto market will be again, get back in Korean too.
And how about the Korean people?
Oh, the people, they just regular guys, they love crypto,
And why do they love crypto? What's the main reason?
Main reason, because, I read some paper that the love of Korean people's crypto is because of the game. Korean people love games, and they are pretty, they know about the gaming money, and crypto is like that gaming money. So they are pretty, familiar with the dealing with crypto, and they're familiar with buying and selling crypto.
Interesting.
That's why.
Really interesting. Yeah. Well, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you, Dohyun. Thank you very much for coming on. If people wanted to get started with BiFi or start building on Bifrost, where do they go? What's the best place for them to get started?
Just come to our website, bifi.finance or the bifrost.io. If you come to our website, you can use everything. It's very easy. Awesome.
Well, I love to see a little bit of Norse mythology thrown in to the naming scheme as well. Thank you so much for having you on, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Okay, thank you very much.